Hey guys, so today was just an extreme bull momentum day. If you ever want to see what an extreme momentum day looks like, this was it. So, kind of surprising on a few different fronts to see such a bullish day. We had GDP come out this morning, came down at 1.1%, which was a drop from like 2.6%. That's a huge drop in the GDP, probably one of the bigger ones we've seen lately. That's not good. That shows that recession is pretty much coming here soon. Definitely be interesting to see what Q2 GDP is and over the summer. Other than that, we did have meta earnings, but not really anything I would say was super bullish. And after that, we also got jobless claims, which did come down again, which shows strength in the economy. So with that, one of the interesting things that happened, and I put it in my written TA so you guys can visualize it too, but we had the chances of a rate cut by the end of the year decrease from pricing in a 75 basis point rate cut by end of year to now only pricing in 50 basis points of cuts by end of year. Now, I think next Wednesday when Jay Powell has FOMOC and tells us, and we get our 25 basis point hike and we get to hear from Jay Powell again, I think pretty confidently he's going to say that the base case is still no rate cuts. And I think we are going to see markets finally react to that. And then the week after that, we have CPI. And I have a feeling that CPI is going to come in a little hotter than expected with how oil has come in. And we're either going to see our first rebound or at least an unchanged CPI. So definitely interesting to see what happens over the next 2 weeks. One of the things I'm kind of suspecting here was that this was a run for the exit. And what I mean by that is if we saw the markets price in less rate cuts, the VIX should not have dropped by 10% like it did today, 9.66%. We also really shouldn't have had a massively bullish day. In general, that is less bullish for the markets. And historically, whenever we have more rate cuts, markets react in a negative way. So less rate cuts should be the same thing. So it'll be interesting to see if this was just a big push up so that big money could exit up here, or if we're just going to kind of base into CPI next week. FOMC next week. One of the biggest things that happened is we did establish a new demand right here at 404.3, and then we pushed up, we took out the demand that was left here, and now we just kind of tapped and rejected off 412.7 supply. So from here, I see either a scenario where we're going to push up to take out 414.1 demand, and then we're going to start our move down, or we could immediately turn around, double top here off 412.3, reconfirm this area as supply, and then push back down. So kind of be interested to see what happens tomorrow. One of the biggest things that I think is interesting is Amazon. Let me go to this is my weekly chart here. So Amazon, as you can see, had a massive 11% move up, only to give it all back up. And it's looking like it might even go a little bit lower. So right now, Amazon's down about 1.6%. So before this, everybody was pretty much thinking, well, Amazon beat, we should see a pretty big continuation. However, like you saw from Microsoft and Google, they had good beats and actually good beats. And we saw markets drop that day. So that was on Wednesday and Tuesday there. So be interesting to see where we go tomorrow. My target would either be 414.1 or Bears really would like to get this back under 405.3 by end of day tomorrow. Minimally from a weekly time frame, I'd like to see us close under 407.3. However, really it's anybody's guess on where we're going to go next. Going over to futures here, so same thing, came down, I put in 40.85 as a new demand support, popped up, took out the 41.18 demand that was right here. So now we just hard rejected 41.58 supply. So same thing here, we either turn around and reconfirm 41.58 as supply and drop back down and target this 40.85 to really 41.10 area, or we're going to push up and try to get somewhere over 41.78, maybe even 41.98, and put a new supply in to take these supplies out on the way down. If we do not go higher to put a new supply in, then that is pretty bearish, and it does put a pretty good top in right here. You can see we have these really nice uniform supply and resistances here. I still have a pretty big ultimate target down here at 40.40 and 40.54. I don't think that's going to come probably till end of next week at this point. Bears definitely had an opportunity to put this lower, but we obviously had a pretty big push up here. On futures, kind of the same thing here. I would really like to see a close under 40.95. Minimally, I'd like to see it under 41.38 though. So interesting enough was the VIX1D today. We're going to talk about this just a little bit here. I'm going to go to my 5-minute chart. So you can see VIX1D, massive gap down overnight. And now, well, the one thing I think is kind of weird about the VIX1D is it stops trading at 4:15 and then opens at 9:30. I find that weird because the regular VIX is open from obviously market closed, or it closes at 4:15 but reopens at 4 a.m. So I do find that kind of interesting. But anyways, what I find most interesting about today is the VIX1D rose all day, and it actually had about a 30, I think it was, yeah, look at that, negative 29% drop from close to open. But it came back and it rallied and it closed today up 11.29%. So what the weirdest thing, and now we only have a couple days of data here now, is that the last 3 days before today, when the VIX1D rose, SPY fell with it. So you can see right here, we had a nice rise, SPY fell, nice rise, SPY fell, and then we kind of plateaued. So we saw the inverse of that today. So the question would be, who was wrong? Was this just some extreme momentum push up and we're going to give it all back tomorrow, which is why the VIX pushed up so much? Or are we going to see a massive drop again on the VIX1D and then continue down? Not really sure. It'll be interesting to see. This VIX1D is new, so we're still learning it. But the one trend that I have noticed is that if the VIX closes green, so far, the next day has been a red day on SPY, and if the VIX closes red, the VIX1D closes red, the next day on SPY has closed green. Now, looking at the regular VIX here, you can see we had a huge rejection, negative 9.66% close today. I find that wild that the longer DTE hedges and options decreased today with all the data and information that we got. So somebody's wrong. Something's going to be correct here soon. But I do find that very interesting, to say the least. Last little thing here is Bitcoin. Bitcoin had a pretty big pop, came up. We didn't quite get to that resistance at 29.9K. See what we do here over tomorrow. We might come back down a little bit, or we could try to see a pushback up here. But the VIX is pretty much basing in this 27.2, or sorry, the Bitcoin is basing from 27.2K right now up to about 30.5K. Which pretty much is what SPY is doing to here. If you look at it, we got 404.3 to really 415.6 as our range on SPY. And then on futures, we have 40.85 up to about 41.78 as our range right now. So looking to see if this range breaks. There's a very good chance we could just hold in this range here until FOMOC next Wednesday. But definitely going to be interesting to see where we end up at the end of next week after FOMOC. And I'm very interested to see what J-Powell has to say. And more importantly, I'm interested to see if market is going to listen to him this time or not.